The message arrived at 3:17 a.m. Dr. Han Jiho had fallen asleep at his desk when his computer suddenly turned on by itself. The screen filled with strange symbols that flashed and changed. Han woke with a start. He stared at the screen, not believing what he was seeing. "This isn't possible," he whispered. He reached for his phone and called Kim Dury. "You need to come now," he said when she answered. "Something is happening." When Kim arrived, they watched the symbols change and repeat on the screen. "It's a message," Han said, "but we can't read it." Kim frowned. "We need a linguist." "I know someone," Han said. "Lee Sunmi. She studies how we might talk to aliens. People laugh at her work, but she's brilliant." 3 hours later, Lee Sunmi sat before Han's computer. Her eyes were wide with excitement behind her round glasses. "This is not random," she said. "There are patterns. Repeating sequences. Whoever sent this wants us to understand." "Can you decode it?" Kim asked. Lee nodded slowly. "I think so. But I need time." On the Eridani ship, Tala watched the 3 humans work. "They found our message faster than expected," she told Krell. "And they've already brought in someone who might be able to read it." Krell looked troubled. The human mind works in strange ways. They make leaps of understanding that our logical thinking doesn't allow. "That might save them," Tala said hopefully. 5 days passed. Lee Sunmi barely slept. She worked day and night, finding patterns in the alien message, creating translation programs. "I've got it," she finally said. Her voice was tired but excited. "It's a warning. Something is coming. Something that eats worlds." Han read the translated message with growing horror. "We need to tell people. The government. Everyone." "They won't believe us," Kim said. "We have no proof." "We have to try," Han insisted. The next day, they presented their findings to officials from the Korean government. They showed the message, the translation, the strange energy readings. "You expect us to believe that aliens sent you a warning about space monsters?" one official asked, laughing. "The evidence is clear," Han said firmly. "Something is coming. We have less than 2 weeks to prepare." "This is nonsense," another official said. "Dr. Han, your work has always been respected. But this is crazy talk." They left the meeting defeated. The government would do nothing. "What now?" Kim asked as they walked back to their car. "We go public," Han decided. "We put everything online. All the data. The message. Everything." "They'll say we're crazy," Lee warned. "Some will," Han agreed. "But some might listen." That night, they published everything. By morning, their website had crashed from too many visitors. News stations around the world reported on the alien warning. Some laughed. Some took it seriously. On the Eridani ship, Krell watched with growing concern. "They fight among themselves even now," he said. "Some believe, some don't. They waste precious time arguing." Tala nodded sadly. Their leaders fail them. "But look there, and there." She pointed to different screens showing people around the world. "Small groups are already preparing. They listen when their governments don't." "It won't be enough," Krell said. "The Voratians will consume them all." "Maybe," Tala admitted. "But humans surprise us. They always have." In his apartment, Han looked out at the night sky. Somewhere up there, death was coming for his world. Most people didn't believe him. His own government thought he was crazy. But his phone kept ringing. Scientists from other countries, regular people who believed, they all asked the same question: "How can we help?" Han smiled grimly. If humanity was going to face extinction, at least some of them would go down fighting. "We have work to do," he told Kim and Lee. "The world may not be ready, but we will be." With Tala's help, they quickly rebuilt the pulse device. The blue crystal she brought glowed in the center of the machine. It hummed with strange energy that made the air feel heavy. "The device will disrupt the central mind of the Voratian swarm," Tala explained. but only at close range. How close? Choi asked. Within 1 kilometer of the leader, Tala said. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. Someone would have to carry the device right into the heart of the swarm. A suicide mission. I'll go, Han said. No, Lee Sumi argued. You're needed here, to build more devices if this one works. I'll take it, Choi said firmly. His voice left no room for argument. I've been a soldier. This is what I'm trained for. On screens around them, they could see the Voratian swarm moving toward their location. The creatures had found them. Time was running out. We need to locate the central mine first, Park Yoonji said. She pointed to weather maps on her screen. The swarm moves in a pattern around the leader, like it's being protected. Using Park's data and Tala's knowledge, they identified the likely location of the Voratian leader. It was moving toward Seoul, or what was left of the city. We have 6 hours before it's too late, Tala warned. Before the swarm grows too large to be affected by one device. Preparations moved quickly. They loaded the pulse device onto a small helicopter. Only Choi and 2 volunteer pilots would go. Every minute, reports came in of more areas falling to the Voratians. On the Eridani ship, Krell faced a decision. He had watched Tala break their most sacred law. Now he had to decide if he would report her or help her. The humans continue to surprise me, he told his crew. They face extinction, yet they fight on. They lose loved ones, yet they don't give up. He made his choice. Prepare to provide support, he ordered. We will use our shields to protect the human mission as much as we can without being detected by the Voratians. Back at the facility, it was time for the mission to begin. The helicopter was ready. The device was secured inside. Remember, Tala told Choi, you must get within 1 kilometer of the leader and activate the device. It takes 30 seconds to power up. Then press this button. She pointed to a red button on the side. Choi nodded. His face was calm, but his eyes showed he understood he would not return. If this works, he asked, will it kill all the Voratians? No, Tala answered honestly. Only those connected to this leader. There are other swarms elsewhere in the galaxy, but your world will be safe for now. Choi seemed satisfied with that answer. That's enough for today. Tomorrow can take care of itself. As the helicopter lifted off, Han and the others watched from the ground. No one spoke. What could they say to a man flying to his death to save them all? The helicopter flew toward Seoul through dark skies, filled with Voratians. Twice they were almost overwhelmed, but each time the creatures suddenly moved away, as if pushed by an invisible hand. On his ship, Krell used the Eridani shields to clear a path when needed. It was the most they could do without alerting the Voratians to their presence. They're approaching the target, Tala said, watching from the facility. Less than 2 kilometers now. On the helicopter, Choi prepared the device. The 2 pilots fought to keep the aircraft stable as Voratians began to slam against it in growing numbers. 1 kilometer, one pilot called out. We're in range. Choi activated the device. The blue crystal glowed brighter. The 30-second countdown began. We're losing altitude, the other pilot shouted. They're too heavy. The helicopter began to fall from the sky. Voratians covered every surface. The countdown continued. 10 seconds. 9. 8. The helicopter crashed to the ground. 3. 2. 1. The world went white. Han had not slept in 3 days. His eyes were red, and his hands shook from too much coffee. But he kept working. Kim's death would not be for nothing. I found it, he said finally. In the Eridani message, hidden instructions for a weapon. The remaining scientists gathered around him. Their facility was one of the few safe places left. Outside, most of Korea had fallen to the Voratians. Only deep bunkers and some mountain areas remained free. What kind of weapon? Choi asked. Hope was dangerous now. Too many hopes had already died. The message describes a device that creates a specific energy pulse. Han explained. It targets the central nervous system of the Voratian leader. Can we build it? Park Yunji asked. Han looked at the complex design on his screen. The technology is beyond what we have. We would need materials we can't get anymore. Then it's useless, someone said bitterly. No, Lee Summi cut in. Look, we can modify it. Use Earth technology to make a simpler version. It won't be as powerful, but it might work. They set to work immediately. People from around the world joined by video call. Engineers in hidden bunkers in America. Scientists hiding in the mountains of Europe. Everyone contributed ideas. On the Eridani ship, Tala prepared to do something no observer had ever done. I'm going to the surface, she told Krell. He didn't try to stop her. Our laws mean nothing if we watch another world die when we could help. Tala finished. The humans have shown more courage than many advanced species we've observed. They deserve a chance. What will you do? Krell asked. Give them the missing pieces. Their version of the pulse device won't work without certain elements. I'll bring what they need. Meanwhile, around the world, humans fought in any way they could. They couldn't kill enough Voratians to matter. There were too many, but they found ways to slow them down, to protect each other, to survive one more day. Soldiers gave their lives to save civilians. Doctors worked until they collapsed. Ordinary people shared their food and shelter. In the mountain facility, Han and his team built their device. It looked like a large satellite dish with strange additions. Wires and parts from different machines were connected in ways they were never meant to be. It's ready, Han said finally, or as ready as it can be. Will it work? Choi asked. Han shook his head. I don't know. The design is incomplete. We're missing something important. At that moment, the facility's alarms went off. Something was approaching from the sky. Voratians? Park asked, her voice shaking. Choi checked the screens. No, something else. Something small. One object. They'd rushed outside with weapons ready. A small craft had landed near the facility. Its design was like nothing they had ever seen. The door opened, and Tala stepped out. The human stared in shock. She was clearly not human. Her blue skin glowed faintly. Her 4 eyes blinked in the sunlight. I am Tala of the Eridani, she said in perfect Korean. I sent the warning message. I've come to help you. Han stepped forward. You're real, he said simply. After everything that had happened, he couldn't feel surprise anymore. Yes. And I brought what you need to complete your device. She held out a small container. This element doesn't exist on Earth. Without it, your pulse won't reach the Voratian central mind. Lee looked at the strange blue crystal in the container. This is what we're missing in the design. Why are you helping us? Choi asked suspiciously. You only warned us before. Why do more now? Tala looked at the humans around her. Tired, dirty, injured, but still fighting. Because in all our observations of life across the galaxy, we've never seen a species like yours, she said. Most give up when the Voratians come. You keep fighting, even when you know you can't win. We can win now, Han asked. With this, Tala said, holding up the crystal, you have a chance. For the first time in weeks, Han allowed himself to feel real hope. Alarms blared through the Eridani ship. Krell rushed to the command center, his long limbs moving quickly across the polished floor. Report, he demanded. A junior observer named Miv looked up from her station. Her skin had turned pale with fear. Long-range sensors have detected a Voratian swarm entering the solar system. The room fell silent. Every Eridani knew what this meant. How long? Krell asked, his voice now a whisper. 8 Earth days until their advanced scouts arrive. The main swarm will follow in 20 days. Tala stood frozen at her station. The humans have no defense against the Voratians. They don't even know they exist. Krell nodded grimly. I have witnessed 3 civilizations face the Voratians. None survived. The Tyrillian Empire had technology far beyond humans, yet they were consumed in weeks. On the main screen, they could see the approaching threat. It looked like a dark cloud in space, but it was made of billions of small creatures. The Voracians traveled like a swarm of insects. They ate everything in their path. Plants, animals, people. They left nothing alive. "We should warn them," Tala said suddenly. Krell turned to her. "You know our laws. We observe only. We never interfere. But they will all die." Tala's voice rose. "Every human, every animal, everything on that beautiful blue planet. It is not our place to choose which species lives or dies," Krell said, but his voice lacked conviction. Meanwhile on Earth, strange things were happening. In Busan, meteorologist Park Yoonji stared at her weather screens with confusion. "This makes no sense," she said to her assistant. "These atmospheric patterns are impossible." The screens showed strange waves in the upper atmosphere, energy readings that had never been seen before. "Could it be an equipment problem?" her assistant asked. Park shook her head. "3 different systems are showing the same thing. Something is disturbing our atmosphere from above." Across the world, animals began to act strangely. Birds flew in circles, confused about which way to migrate. Whales beached themselves on shores. Dogs howled at the sky even during the day. In Seoul, Dr. Han Ji-ho noticed that his strange energy readings were getting stronger. "The pattern has changed," he told Dr. Kim Dury. "Whatever is up there, it's agitated now. Like it's moving around more, or maybe communicating with something else." Kim looked worried. "Do you think we should tell someone? The government, maybe?" Han laughed without humor. "And tell them what? That I found weird energy in space. They would think we're crazy." On the Eridani ship, the debate continued. "These humans are different," Tala insisted. "You've said it yourself, Krell. They are full of contradictions, yes, but also full of strength we don't understand. They might find a way to survive if we warn them." Krell paced the room. "The Voracians have consumed worlds for millions of years. No one stops them. No one survives them." "No one has yet," Tala corrected. "But no one else is human." Krell stopped pacing. He looked at the blue planet below. Billions of lives about to end, with no idea of what was coming. "The humans have shown remarkable problem-solving abilities," he admitted, "and their history shows they fight hardest when facing extinction." "Then let me send them a warning," Tala pleaded. "Just a message, information about the Voracians, that's all. What they do with it is their choice." After a long silence, Krell nodded once. "Prepare a simple message. But remember, Tala, if we do this, we break thousands of years of Eridani law. We may never be allowed to return home." Tala moved to her station. "Some things are worth the risk." As she began to compose a message, the Voracian swarm continued its approach. On Earth, the sun rose and set as it always had. People went to work. Children played. No one looked up at the stars with fear. Not yet. The pulse of energy spread out like a ripple in water. Where it touched the Voracians, they fell from the sky. Billions of black bodies dropped like rain. The noise was like thunder that wouldn't stop. At the facility, everyone watched the screens in silence. The energy pulse showed as a white circle growing larger and larger on their radar. "It worked," Han whispered. "Choi did it." For the first time in weeks, the sky began to clear. The endless black cloud of Voracians broke apart. Sunlight reached the ground again. "The neural connection is broken," Tala explained. "Without the central mind to control them, the Voracians can't function. They're just empty shells now." But the victory came at a terrible cost. Half the world lay in ruins. Billions of people were gone. Entire cities had been erased. The survivors emerged from bunkers to find a changed planet. 3 days after the pulse, Han stood on a hill overlooking what was left of Seoul. Most buildings were gone. The land was bare, as if scraped clean. But here and there, people moved among the ruins, already starting to rebuild. Your friend Choi saved the world, Tala said, standing beside him. His sacrifice won't be forgotten. Han nodded. We have a saying. The bravest people are the ones who are afraid but act anyway. Choi was afraid. He told me so before he left. But he went anyway. That's what amazed us about humans, Tala said. Your courage isn't about not feeling fear. It's about feeling it and continuing on. On the Eridani ship, Krell had made his report to the High Council. He expected punishment for breaking their non-interference law. Instead, the Council was fascinated by what had happened. The humans defeated the Voratians, Krell told them. No species has ever done that before. They did it through cooperation, sacrifice, and sheer determination. The Council made an unprecedented decision. Humans would be offered formal contact with the Eridani, not as subjects to study, but as equals. 1 week later, Han, Lee, and Park stood in a field as the Eridani ship became visible for the first time. It was beautiful, like a silver leaf floating in the air. A crowd of people watched from a distance, held back by a temporary fence. Krell emerged from the ship with Tala and 3 other Eridani. He looked around at the damaged Earth with all 4 eyes. Your world has suffered greatly, he said, but we can help you rebuild, if you wish. Why would you help us? Lee asked. Because you've earned it, Krell answered. In all our observations across thousands of worlds, we've never seen a species face extinction with such dignity. Others begged for help or turned on each other. You fought together until the end. Park looked suspicious. What do you want in return? Krell made a gesture that might have been a smile. Knowledge. Partnership. Humans solve problems in ways we don't understand. You see possibilities where we see only facts. Together, we might finally end the Voratian threat across the galaxy. Han thought about Kim Dury, who died getting crucial information. About Choi, who flew to his death to save others. About countless people who helped strangers even as the world ended around them. We accept your help, Han said, and we offer ours in return. 1 year later, Earth was healing. With Eridani technology, the damaged land began to grow again. New cities rose from the ruins of the old ones. The population was smaller, but united as never before. At a ceremony in New Seoul, a monument was unveiled. It showed a human hand and an Eridani hand reaching toward each other. At its base were the names of those who died stopping the Voratians, with Choi Hyun and Kim Dury at the top. Tala, now the official Eridani ambassador to Earth, stood beside Han as the monument was revealed. Your people still amaze me, she said. After everything you lost, you rebuild. You move forward. Han watched a group of children playing nearby. Some had lost everything, but still they laughed. That's what humans do, he said simply. We endure. The great ship of the Eridani hung silently above Earth. No human eyes could see it. The ship used technology that bent light around it. From their ship, the aliens watched Earth with great interest. Senior observer Krell stood on the main deck. His tall, thin body cast a long shadow. His skin shimmered with a faint blue glow. 4 eyes blinked slowly as he studied the blue planet below. Fascinating creatures, these humans, Krell said. His voice was soft, but filled the room. Tala, much younger and smaller than Krell, moved to his side. Her eyes were wider, filled with excitement. They fight so much among themselves, yet they create such beautiful things, she said. I have never seen a species with such strong feelings. Krell nodded. In 300 cycles of observation, I have never seen a species so full of contradictions. They are physically weak, yet they survive in places that would kill others. They know they will die, yet they laugh and love as if they will live forever. The observation deck showed images from all over Earth. Cities full of lights, oceans with ships, forests where humans walked among trees, deserts where they built homes despite the heat. Most species we study are easy to understand, said Krell. The Zentari live for order. The Mox seek only pleasure, but humans, they want freedom and safety. They love and hate with equal strength. They build and destroy. I cannot predict what they will do next. Tala touched the screen, zooming in on a small building in a city called Seoul. This place interests me, she said, a research center where they look to the stars. Inside the building, Dr. Han Jiho sat at his desk. Papers covered every surface. 3 empty coffee cups sat beside his computer. His eyes were tired, but he smiled as he looked at the data on his screen. Dury, come see this, he called out. Dr. Kim Dury walked in, holding her own coffee. Her short black hair was messy, and her lab coat had a small food stain. She had been working for 20 hours straight. What is it now, Jiho? Please tell me you found something real this time. Han pointed at his screen. These energy readings from last night, they don't match any known satellite or space debris. Kim leaned closer. Her tired eyes opened wide. That's not possible, she whispered. Run the tests again. I did. 5 times. Han's voice was quiet but excited. Something is up there, Dury. Something big. And it's not showing up on any official space agency tracking systems. Kim sat down slowly. If you're right, it would change everything. Han finished her sentence. Back on the Eridani ship, Tala watched the 2 scientists with growing interest. They detected our energy shield, she told Krell. Even with our technology hiding us, they found traces. Krell moved quickly to her side. Impossible. Their technology is too primitive. See for yourself, Tala said, pointing to the data on Han's computer screen. This human has modified his equipment in ways we didn't expect. He's brilliant, even by our standards. Krell's eyes narrowed. This is troubling. No species at their development stage has detected us before. Or perhaps it's impressive, Tala suggested. Maybe they're more ready for the wider universe than we thought. Perhaps, Krell said. But our mission is to observe only. Remember the disaster with the Proxima civilization. We revealed ourselves too soon, and they destroyed themselves in panic and religious upheaval. Tala nodded, but couldn't hide her excitement. But what if these humans are different? What if they could handle the truth? In his office, Han saved his data to a private folder. He named it Visitors. Then he looked up at the night sky through his window. What are you? He whispered. And why are you watching us? Above him, invisible to his eyes, the Eridani ship continued its silent observation, unaware that soon both watchers and watched would face a threat greater than either had imagined. The small island was called Jeju. It sat in the sea south of Korea. People there had good lives. They fished, farmed, and welcomed visitors who came to see the beautiful beaches. That changed on a warm Tuesday morning. The sky turned dark suddenly, not like storm clouds, more like a moving shadow. People looked up and saw something that made no sense. A swirling mass of small black dots filled the sky. Park Min, a fisherman, was the first to call for help. Something strange is in the sky, he told emergency services. Thousands of small black things. Like insects, but not insects. Those were his last words. The Voratian Advance Force descended on Jeju Island. They looked like small black beetles with too many legs. Each one was the size of a human hand. They moved incredibly fast. They ate everything. Plants, animals, people, even the clothes people wore. In just 2 hours, the island was stripped bare. Only rock, metal, and sand remained. 50,000 people gone. On the Eridani ship, Krell and Tala watched in horror. It's starting, Krell said grimly. This is just their scout force. A small group sent ahead to test Earth's defenses. Tala couldn't speak. Tears fell from her eyes as she watched the devastation. Videos from Jeju spread online before governments could stop them. Panic spread across the world. The strange message that Dr. Han had shared now seemed terrifyingly real. In Seoul, Han watched the news with a sick feeling. It's happening faster than we thought, he told Kim and Lee. His phone rang. It was a number he didn't know. Dr. Han, a deep voice said. My name is Choi Hyun. I was a military strategist. Now I work privately. I saw your warning last week. I believe you now. We all do. It's too late, Han said bitterly. They're already here. Not too late to fight, Choi said firmly. I'm sending a helicopter for you and your team. We have a place to work, safe from the first attacks. 3 hours later, Han, Kim, and Lee arrived at a mountain facility. It had once been a military base. Now it was filled with scientists, soldiers, and engineers. The government still won't act officially, Choi explained as he led them inside. But many of us are acting anyway. We have people from 15 countries here. What about other attacks? Lee asked. After Jeju. 6 small islands in the Pacific, Choi said. A research station in Antarctica. All gone. The pattern is clear. They're testing us, starting with isolated places. How do we fight them? Kim asked. We know nothing about them except they eat everything. That's why you're here, Choi said. You received their message. Maybe you can find a weakness. They set up in a large room filled with computers and equipment. Scientists from around the world worked side by side. Different languages filled the air, but they all shared the same goal: survival. On the Eridani ship, Tala noticed something unexpected. Krell, look at this, she called. The humans are organizing faster than any species we've seen face the Voracians. Krell moved to her station. On the screen, he saw military units moving, scientists gathering, people building shelters. Most species take days to recover from the shock of first contact, Krell said. These humans took hours. They're adaptable, Tala said with growing hope. And look here. She showed him images of Dr. Han and the team at the mountain facility. They're already analyzing the Voracian remains from Jeju, she said. They learn quickly. Krell watched thoughtfully. The Voracians have never failed to consume a planet, but they have never faced humans before. At the facility, Han studied tissue samples from a dead Voracian found in the sea near Jeju. His eyes widened. I think I found something, he called to the others. These creatures, they have a weakness. For the first time since the black swarm appeared, a small light of hope began to shine. They don't like this sound, Han explained, playing a high-pitched noise through speakers in the lab. In a glass case, a captured Voracian twisted and tried to get away from the sound. It's not just the noise, Kim added. It's the electromagnetic frequency that comes with it. It disrupts their nervous system somehow. Around the table, scientists from different countries listened carefully. No one smiled, but their eyes showed new hope. Can we make a weapon from this? Choi Hyun asked. Not a weapon exactly, Han said, but we can create devices that push them away from important areas. It gives us time to evacuate people. We need more data, Lee Sumi said. The frequency works on one Voracian, but will it work on thousands? Millions. On screens around the room, they could see news from around the world. The Voracians had attacked more places, small towns in Australia, villages in Africa. Each time, they left nothing alive. Major cities will be next, Choi predicted. They're testing our defenses, learning about us. Then we need to work faster, Han said firmly. At that moment, Park Yoonji arrived at the facility. Her clothes were dirty and torn. She had traveled for 2 days to get there after her weather station in Busan was evacuated. Dr. Han, she said, walking into the lab. I have information that might help. She showed them weather data from before and during the attacks. The Voracians change our atmosphere when they gather. They create specific patterns. We can predict where they'll attack next. This new information was exactly what they needed. Han's team quickly combined their sound device with Park's weather tracking system. We can set up these devices around cities, Han explained to world leaders on a video call. They won't stop the Vorations forever, but they will slow them down. Give people time to get to safety. For the first time, governments around the world worked together without arguing. Old enemies shared resources. Countries that had fought for centuries now fought side by side against a common enemy. On the Eridani ship, Krell watched with amazement. "I've never seen anything like it," he told Tala. "The humans put aside all their differences in just days." Tala nodded. The Zentari took months to stop fighting each other when the Vorations came. By then, it was too late. "Humans are different," Krell admitted. "Their chaos and contradiction give them strength somehow." As they watched, the first major Voration attack on a large city began. They targeted Mumbai, a city of 20 million people in India. The black swarm filled the sky. People ran in fear. But this time, humanity was more prepared. Hand sound devices had been placed around the city. They created an invisible wall that slowed the Vorations down. Not stopped them, but slowed them. Meanwhile, the military moved people out of the city. Trains, buses, cars, and helicopters carried people to safety. Many still died, but millions escaped. "It's working," Tala said excitedly. "The humans are saving each other." Krell nodded slowly. "Yes, but look closer. The Vorations are adapting. Some of them are getting through the sound barrier." He was right. With each minute, more Vorations pushed through the sound devices. They were learning, changing. Back at the mountain facility, Han saw the same thing on their monitors. "The frequency isn't working as well anymore," he said grimly. "They're adapting faster than we expected." "We need something stronger," Kim said. "A way to kill them, not just push them away." Choi Hyun looked at the team around him. Scientists from Korea, India, America, Russia, and many other countries all work together now. "Then we keep working," he said simply. "We adapt too." Han nodded. "Humans are good at that. Better than any species in the universe." He had no idea how right he was. The main Voration swarm arrived much sooner than expected. It filled the sky like a terrible storm cloud. Day turned to night as billions of the creatures blocked the sun. "They're attacking everywhere at once," Choi said, his voice tight with stress. He pointed at the world map on the big screen. Red dots appeared all over it. Each dot was a Voration attack. The sound devices no longer worked well. The Vorations had changed their bodies to ignore the noise. Humanity's first defense was failing. "Seoul is under heavy attack," someone shouted. Han felt his heart sink. His home city was being eaten alive. "We need samples from the main swarm," Kim Dury said. The scout forces were different. "Maybe the main swarm has different weaknesses." "Too dangerous," Han argued. "No one could get close enough to collect samples and survive." Kim looked at him with sad eyes. "I can try." Before he could stop her, Kim had gathered equipment and joined a military team heading to the front lines in Seoul. Han wanted to go too, but Choi stopped him. "You're needed here," Choi said firmly. "Kim knows what she's doing." Hours passed. Reports came in from around the world. Cities falling. Millions dying. The Vorations moved like a wave across the land, leaving nothing alive behind them. On the Eridani ship, Krell prepared to record the end of another civilization. "We should leave soon," he told Tala. "There's nothing more to observe here. The pattern is the same as always. The Vorations consume, then move on to the next world." Tala couldn't accept it. "But the humans haven't given up," she protested. "Look at them. Even now, they fight." On their screens, they could see people everywhere still helping each other. Soldiers who knew they would die still fought to give others time to escape. Scientists worked even as the creatures broke into their labs. Parents protected children with their own bodies. "They know they can't win," Krell said softly. "But still they fight." "Why?" "Because that's what humans do," Tala answered. "They never accept defeat, not even when it's certain." Han's computer beeped. A message from Kim's team. His hand shook as he opened it. It was data, readings from the main swarm, and a short message. Found something important. They have a leader, a central mind, not just a swarm. Look for large one in center. Sorry I won't make it back. Save our world, Jiho. Duri. Han stared at the screen. Tears fell from his eyes. Kim was gone. His friend. His partner in science. But she had given them valuable information with her life. She found something, he told the others, his voice breaking. The Veracians aren't just a swarm. They have a central control. The leader. Lee Sunmi studied the data. She's right. Look at these brain wave patterns. The big one in the middle is controlling all the others. Can we use this? Park Yoonji asked. Han nodded slowly, wiping tears from his face. Yes. If we can target the central mind, we might disrupt the whole swarm. How? Choi asked. We have no weapon that can reach the center of that swarm. Han looked at the original alien message again. The warning from the Eridani. Something clicked in his mind. The message has more than just a warning, he said. There are patterns here I didn't understand before. It might be instructions. Technology we can use. As Han worked to decode the hidden part of the message, people around the world retreated to bunkers deep underground. They carried books, seeds, and knowledge with them. Even facing the end, humans prepared to rebuild. On the Eridani ship, Tala made a decision. I'm going to help them, she told Krell. Directly. Krell looked shocked. That would break our most sacred law. We never interfere. Maybe some laws should be broken, Tala said. Sometimes watching isn't enough. In the darkness of a world being consumed, a small light of hope remained. Humanity would not go quietly into the night.